Welcome to Human Heart Stories. My name is Julie, and today I'll be telling a story called A Stepmother for Your Kids Will Never Work. Thank you to this man for sharing your story. Today he said he is feeling a bit down and wants to share his story to see if it would help lift his spirits. He would first also like to apologize to all the wonderful stepmoms or blended families out there. This story is just his experience and not meant to generalize to everyone. Please listen with me, help like this video, and subscribe to this channel for more stories. And so he said, I knew my wife since we were both 13 years old. We were each other's first love. Later, when we got married, my wife wanted children right away. We tried for the first 4 years and no luck. My wife was worried and very emotional. She would browse at baby clothes, grab an outfit into her hands with tears streaming down her face. She was so afraid she would not be able to have children and that I would stop loving her. I comforted her and told her to not worry. We sought help through various methods, and finally, she became pregnant with our first child. My wife glowed. She was just so happy. We found out it was going to be a girl. We went shopping and bought everything we had ever desired for our first child. Afterwards, my wife had 2 more children, both girls as well. We were happy with our kids, but my wife wanted to try having a son. She was feeling insecure about having no sons for me, so we decided to try again. When my wife became pregnant the 4th time, we found out it was going to be a boy. We were overjoyed and my wife cried happy tears. Still, after the birth of our 4th child, she said she wanted to try one more time for another boy so that our son could have a brother. It was becoming a handful, raising 4 small children. So we waited a little bit until we tried again. When our 2 eldest daughters were able to help a bit with chores and babysitting, we then tried again. And soon, we found out my wife was pregnant with our 5th child, and it was going to be a boy again. My wife's 5th pregnancy, however, was more difficult for her. She had less energy, and her hands and feet swelled. I was worried and told her, this will be our last child. When my wife went into labor, she had a difficult time. I stayed by her side the entire time. Many hours later, she finally gave birth. My wife could barely open her eyes and said she was very tired. She broke into cold sweats, and that night I couldn't sleep. I stayed by her side all night into the morning, calling her name every so often. I was afraid she would fall asleep and never wake up again. And she kept telling me she was leaving me. Then right before dawn, my wife took her last breath. If I knew this pregnancy was going to take her life, I would have never allowed her to get pregnant again. After my wife's funeral, I felt the real pain of coming home to a house filled with kids but no mother. When my newborn cried for milk, I cried with him. My eldest children would cry with me, while the younger ones just kept wondering and asking where their mother went. I would look out the window, wondering if this was a dream, to see if I would see her coming home. And then, when I saw other families, the mom and dad helping each other with their children, it made me sad and lonely, and I would cry all over again by myself. But I loved my children too much and didn't want to marry just any woman. When my youngest son turned 5, I finally decided to start dating again. Dating was difficult as I was very picky. It was a selfish thought, but I wanted to find a woman with no children so that she could love mine. I didn't want my children competing for the new mother's attention and love. My family was empathetic and supportive of me. My sisters helped watch my kids while I tried to meet women. I met some women I liked, but if they had baggage or if I didn't find them too attractive, I soon lost interest. But the younger single women weren't interested in me. I would come back home frustrated, and by now, my eldest daughter was very mature and responsible. Every night, she would help start dinner for the kids and I. She was very sensitive and emotional, like her mother. Some nights, I would catch her shedding tears. I knew she missed her mother. I thought to myself, I have to find a new wife soon to help take care of the house and children. Soon, I met a new woman. She was divorced, but didn't have any kids. She was accepting of my situation and didn't have reservations like the other single women I have met did. She liked me very much and said she would help me raise my children. I was attracted to her too. She was beautiful, and she seemed like she could love my kids. Not long after meeting, we got married. For the first 2 months, my new wife was very caring and loving. She helped bathe my younger kids and even tied my daughter's hair up. But my youngest daughter hated baths and was rather stubborn in general. Soon, my wife lost patience with her, and her demands became loud and aggressive. And she said to me, "Your queen daughter is a brat. She listens to no one. She throws food all over the place. Then she cries about everything. Why did I make such a mistake to marry you and get stuck with these kids? There's no one else who will put up with these kids like I do." I said, "Dear, don't say that. My kids are still young and don't know any better yet. Please be patient with them." Each time my eldest daughter heard us argue, tears would fall down her face. She was extremely sensitive and felt hurt hearing such words come out of my wife's mouth. Then my wife would say, "What a crybaby! Why does she cry about every little thing? Why does she always gotta cry to make people think that I don't love her?" There would be times I would get very sad by myself, sad at my fate and missing my first wife, dreaming about how wonderful life would be now if she was still here. My new wife would constantly visit her parents and her other families. She got mad very often and would take off whenever she wanted and say such things like, "I am so sick and tired of you all. I need space." Then my kids would come up to me and hug me and cry. I would cry with them. At times, when my new wife caught us all crying together, she would say, "Why are you all so sad and crying? Oh my goodness, how sickening. If you hate me that much, then just divorce me." When my kids and I were out of the house together, my wife would be home all day doing nothing, No chores done. She would cook and eat by herself. That night, if I came home and asked her why something did not get done, she would yell back at me, "It's not my job." And then she would hold that anger for the rest of the night. At bedtime, if I tried to hold her, she would shove me away, throw me punches, and sleep against the wall. She said, "You love your kids more than me, so why don't you go sleep with them instead?" I couldn't believe the words that came out of her mouth, but I bit my tongue and swallowed my thoughts as I knew the argument would only get worse if I responded. I thought, maybe she's just upset this time, but the next time she would do the same. Later, some of my distant relatives met my wife, and that was when I found out the truth about her and her ex-husband. They said to me, "She was very aggressive and short-tempered with her first husband. They fought all the time. Her husband eventually grew sick and tired of her and divorced her. She was not a nice person. I wish we knew you were dating. With her, you will need lots of patience." When I heard this, I pitied myself and couldn't stop the tears from falling down my face. It became my wife's favorite thing to make suggestive comments about my eldest daughter and I. One time, she said, "Why are you two always whispering to each other in a corner? What is the point of you marrying me when you have each other?" I got very upset. I couldn't hold it in any longer. I raised a stick in her face and yelled, "How dare you talk like that about me and my daughter? I've been holding everything inside for you, but I am no longer doing that." My daughter cried and walked away as I continued yelling at my wife. I yelled, "If my wife was still alive, you would only dream of ever becoming my wife. Your first husband couldn't stand you either. You think I don't know? Your terrible attitude was the reason he couldn't put up with you anymore, and unfortunately, I picked up his dirt." But then my wife grew even more mad, and then she grabbed my stick and yelled back, "Hit me then. Why don't you just hit me? If you don't hit me, then you're just a dog." I was so angry. I had never been this angry before. She continued, "You and your daughters love each other so much, so why bring another woman into your family?" I slapped her in the face. She was upset and threatened to sue me. Then she took off to her parents' house. I didn't care where she went. I found my daughter and patted her on the head. We cried again. My wife spent time spreading rumors to anyone who would listen to her. For those who knew her well, and if they defended us, my wife would instantly hate them and never talk to them again. After a few days, my wife returned home. I said, "Why are you back?" She responded, "Because this is my house. Where do you expect me to go? You're the one who wanted me so much and couldn't wait to marry me. Is it 'cause you're so happy here with your daughter that you don't want me back?" I rolled my eyes. I was so sick and tired of her. It's no wonder. There's a saying that the elders have always preached, that it's only good your first time. Later in bed, she cried to herself and said, "If I knew life was going to be like this with you, I would have never married you. My first husband wasn't even as bad as you, never laid his hand on me, and even then I couldn't take it anymore." I just ignored her. She is always picking fights. She would yell and complain and only stopped when she was satisfied. If I ever as much as told her to shut up, she would run to find a stick and dare me to hit her. My life today is in this kind of chaos. I am not sure how much longer I will put up with her. This story ends here. Thank you for listening to Human Heart Stories. Please remember to help like this video and subscribe to this channel for more stories.